Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. In this video I'll show you guys how to build some functions so we can send orders to interactive brokers along with the functions for our algorithm. So here I have my interactive brokers application open, and this is for a paper trading account, but the same process goes for a live account. So we just need to click on settings, click on API, and then settings, and then check the same boxes I have checked. And you can use the same socket port for your computer. After that, hit apply and then OK. And then we're done with interactive brokers for now. So we're going to set it aside and work on our script. So here are all the packages we're going to require. And this script will be purely for functions that we need for our algorithm. Alright guys, so these two functions are the same functions I've been using throughout this series, and they're mainly used to call intraday data from my database. Alright guys, so my intraday data I download every weekend for the previous week. So in my database I should have data up to July 2nd, since Friday was a holiday. So I need to get data for the days that we're trading, and the problem is that nobody really offers free intraday data. So there's a few alternatives we can do. For one, we can get data from Vantage, but that's not really going to help us for our live trading. It's just going to help us to get the intraday data for the days that we're missing, but not for the day that we're trading. So I'll do a small workaround. It's not the preferred way to do it, but it is a way to do it at no cost. And then the other way is to get your data from interactive brokers, but they do charge for that data and you need to subscribe to it every month. So I'll show you both methods, but obviously the preferred method is to go through interactive brokers, as the data will be of higher quality. Alright guys, so the very first function we're going to write is going to be used to calculate the beginning of the week that we're currently trading. And I'm going to use this because when I call data from Vantage, it's going to pull all available data, but I only want data for the beginning of the week, since I'm going to merge it with my data that I call from my database. Alright, so I'm just going to name this Find Monday. I'm going to pass in the day today. And then I'm going to test what day of the week it is by running the following. So if weekdays is Monday, then I'm going to return that day. I'm going to copy this, and I'm going to need one for each of the weekdays. So this will be for Tuesday. So if the day today is Tuesday, we're going to subtract one day to give us Monday's date. For Wednesday, we're going to have to subtract 2 days. For Thursday, it'll be 3. And then for Friday, it'll be 4. So just to test it out, I'm going to run this function. So today is Thursday. I'm going to pass in my date. So 7/6/2020 should be a Monday. So when I call data from Vantage, I'll just subset Vantage data starting from 7/6, since I already have data up to July 2nd. I'll merge these two and then we'll have a complete data set for my tickers. All right, now we're going to request data from Vantage, and you are going to need your API key. So this I'll name new data, and then for my parameters I'll type in symbol and minutes. So it'll be the symbol I'm requesting and then the time frame I'm also requesting. So if I put 5 for minutes, it'll give me 5-minute bars, but in this example we're using 30-minute bars, so minutes will be 30. So for the URL, I'll use paste 0. I'll go ahead and paste the link in the description. So the URL is Vantage, and then the symbol we are requesting the minutes, and then you're gonna want to hard code your API key here. And then we're going to use fread to read in the data fairly quickly. We use header true, and then the separator is a comma. So here I'm going to paste some comments. We need to adjust Vantage data since their starting and ending times differ from the data I read from bar chart. So we need to adjust these times. So we'll create an index and we'll use as PO6CT. We're going to pass in the timestamp, and then the format Vantage uses is a 4-digit year, hyphen, and then month, and then day, space, hours, minutes, and seconds. I'm going to pass in the time zone. And set that equal to New York time. And then I'm going to subtract the minutes we are using so that it matches my index from bar charts data. Alright, so next I'm going to extract the close. And then I'll do order by our index that we just created. So the next thing I'm going to do is change the column name of this data to our ticker name. So I'll pass in symbol followed by close. It just makes it easier to move around using the QuantMod package. So we're going to use our find Mondays function to subset our data by running dat. I'll paste 0 and then I'll do find Mondays day today is equal to day today, and then comma colon colon. So this will subset our data starting from July 6th. So what I'll do next is I'm going to move this data to our global environment so that we can easily grab it when we need it. So I'll set this to assign, paste symbol. We're going to send our data, and then the environment will be global environment. And then return data. So we'll run this line. So here we'll test it out. So here I'm just assigning what day of the week it is today. Alright, so for new data, we'll do symbol is Apple, minutes, set that equal to 30. And then watch my global environment. After we run this, we should have a new variable. So here we have Apple's data beginning on July 6th. Right, so this next function is to actually get the data from our global environment. So we'll use if the symbol is in our global environment, then we're going to get the symbol which is in our global environment. If it's not, then I'm going to print symbol not found. So here I'll run this function. So I'm going to request we get that data from our global environment. So it'll return that data. Let's say we're calling a symbol that we don't have, then it'll print out symbol not found. So just as I did in the previous videos, I will create a new environment so that we send our spreads into that environment. And then we're going to calculate the pairs here. So here we'll pass in symbol 1 and symbol 2 and then the time frame. So A will be symbol 1, and then symbol 2 will be B. And then I'm going to request data from my database by running close, reshape. Minutes will be our time frame. And this will be B for our second asset. I'll fill in the NAs using NA LOCF. And here I'm just going to paste A and paste B for our column names. And then asset 1 will be rets 1 A, and then asset 2 will be B. And then again, I merge these so that the index line up correctly, fill in the NAs for the observations that they don't have, and then I'm going to split the data again. All right, so now we need to tweak the index of asset 1 and 2 by running as pos6ct. We'll pass in assets 1 index. The format will be %y hyphen %m for month, %d for day, and then it's hours, minutes, and seconds. Time zone will be America, New York. So we'll copy that, paste that here, change this for asset 2. And then here I'm just gonna bind our new data from Alpha Vantage with our database data. So asset 1 will be bind asset 1 with get from global symbol 1, and then asset 1, I'll make the index unique in case there's duplicates. So I'll copy that, do the same thing for asset 2. So this will give us a full data set of the ticker we're requesting, but I want to test if the number of rows in asset 1 are the same as asset 2. So here, if the number of rows do not match, I'll do temp, merge XTS, asset 1 and asset 2. And I'll do NA approximate for temp. And then I'll do asset 1 is temp A, and asset 2 will be B. Alright guys, now that the number of rows match, I'm going to use linear model, asset 1, tilde, asset 2, plus 0, and then I'll extract the beta by running coefficient of M, the very first observation. And then I'll calculate the spread here, which is asset 1 minus beta 1 multiplied by asset 2. So the column names of the spread will be paste C, A, and B, separated by a hyphen. So then I'll assign this spread to my new environment by running names of spread. I'll send the spread, and then the environment we are sending it to is E. And then P is try, suppress warnings, ADF. Test is NA omit, spread, alternative is stationary, and then K is 0. So to use ADF test, I need to import T-series. So if we don't get any errors, then I want to return as DataFrame cbind, paste A, paste B. I'm going to round our beta to 4 decimal places, and I'm going to round our p-value to 4 decimal places. And then I'll use strings as factors false. So we'll go ahead and run this function. I'm going to need fetch data and reshape. So here I'm just going to test it out. So A will be new data. We'll use Apple. Minutes will be 30. And then for the second asset, we'll do Amazon. So we'll use pair strat. Symbol 1 will be Apple symbol 2 will be Amazon. Time frame we use is 30 minutes. So right after our ADF test function, we need to write Pvalue. Make this silent, true. Now we'll test it out again. Take a look at pairs 2. So now we have our tickers, our beta, and then the p-value. Alright, so now we're going to do our Bband strat. Alright, so for this Bband strategy function, it's basically the same we used in the previous video. So I'm just going to paste the content here, and I'll briefly go over them. So we're passing in our spread, and then I'm going to calculate B-bands. On that spread, we're going to make our signal, and our signals are, if it crosses the Bollinger Band moving average, we're going to close our positions. If it happens to go above the upper band, we're going to short it, and if it closes below the band, we're going to long it or buy it, and then fill in the rest of the signals by using NALOCF. We're going to lag the signal. Here I'm actually assigning the signal to our global environment so that we can use it later. And here's to calculate the number of trades, but we don't need that. Here I'm requesting the data from my database and then row binding it with the data we get from Vantage. We're making the index unique. So we're going to put it in 2 lines. And then here we just calculate the trade price for asset 1 and asset 2. Calculate the points. Also calculate the share size, our gross profit, our net profit, our equity curve, our drawdowns, the number of trades, and then the drawdown duration. And then finally, I'm just returning that data frame. Alright, before running this, I need to set the time frame equal to 30 minutes. So we'll run this function by setting symbol 1 equal to Apple, symbol 2 equal to Amazon. Starting capital will be 2,500, and then our spread is located in E, so we'll just pass that through. Alright, so we'll take a look at our Bollinger Band strategy here for Apple and Amazon. Looks like everything is filled in, so everything looks good. It looks like we couldn't buy any shares of Amazon because of its price, so that kind of messed up. But we're not going to use Amazon or Apple for our pairs trading strategy. We're just testing this out. Alright guys, so for the next function, we need to make trading decisions, whether to buy, sell, or close our positions. So I'm going to build a function called buy, sell, or close. And here I'm going to pass in the current tick or current signal, and then the previous signal. Pass in temp, stock 1, and stock 2. So what I'm going to basically do is compare the current signal to the previous signal, and then I'm going to make decisions based off of that. Alright, so if our current tick does not equal our previous tick, I'm going to open a position if our current signal is 1 and the previous signal is 0, or it differs. So if a current tick is equal to 1, I'm going to check to see if previous positions existed. It'll be a rare case, but say the stock or the spread goes past the upper band, and then in the next bar it goes all the way down to the lower band, so we need to check. All right, so for this, I'll write if previous tick is equal to negative current tick. So if they're opposites, I want to 0 positions. So then after I close my positions, I'm going to send a long position. I'll pass in temp. Stock 1 will be stock 1. Stock 2 will be stock 2. Otherwise, just send long position. So typically it'll either cross the upper or lower bands, and then generally it'll go and cross the moving average. But if there's lots of volatility, it could be the case where it goes from +1 to -1 or -1 to +1. So that's why we need to 0 our positions first. All right, so I'm going to open a new position if our current tick is currently -1. So here I'm going to copy this, paste it here, change this to -1, leave this how it is. I want to 0 my positions if that case happens, and then here we'll do send short. And don't worry about the send long and send short functions or 0 positions. We're going to calculate those following this function. All right, and then we're going to need a case where we need to close our positions. So if the current tick is equal to 0, I'm going to 0 positions. Otherwise, we'll write a function called DoNothing. So this brace should close with this brace. Okay. So it looks like we got everything covered. So we'll go ahead and run this function. All right, so for our DoNothing function, I'm just going to print a line that says nothing to buy, sell, or close. I'm going to print the system time and then \n for a new line. So when that runs, it'll look like this. All right, our next function is if we want to 0 positions, it'll be an empty function. So here we'll connect to interactive brokers by running TWS connect. We'll use the port 7497 or whatever port you used under your settings in interactive brokers. AC will be our account updates. Positions will be TWS, portfolio value, pass in our account, include 0 positions. We'll set that equal to false. All right, so now we need to close out our positions. All right, so first we need to test to see if we have any positions in our account to close. So to test that, we'll use is not null. We'll use is null, and then the exclamation means not. So if it's not null, then we'll use current ticker as character, positions, local, current POS. Do that as character, positions, For security 1, or our first asset, will be TWS, STK for stock. We'll use current tickers 1 for our first symbol. Copy that. This will be for our second symbol. Security 1 shares will be as character. Absolute value as numeric. Current position 1. Copy that. This will be for number 2. So here I'm going to write whether to buy or sell. So we'll use if else. So as numeric, current positions of our first asset is less than 0. I'm going to set act 1 to buy. So since we're closing them out, if my first position has a -1, which is less than 0, I want to buy it back. Otherwise, act 1 will be a sell. Copy that. We're going to run the same thing for position 2. This will be act 2. Act 2. We always need an order ID for interactive brokers, so we'll set that equal to as numeric, require ID, TWS. Do the same thing for the second asset. Here I'm going to send the order. So my first order will be TWS order. We'll pass in our order ID for the first asset. Order type. I'm just going to send these as market orders, which I do not recommend. But if you go to TWS order, there's a lot of things you can do with this function. I would recommend you using order type limit, but you need to set a limit price as a character. So take a look at the documentation on how to send limit prices. But for this example, I just want to get these filled fast so that we can display the results here. All right, so the next thing I need to write is outside regular trading hours. We'll set that equal to 0 for false. What action do I want? To act 1, which was calculated here, whether we're buying or selling. Total quantity, we'll use security 1 shares. And then finally, if we actually want to transmit it to the market, we'll set this equal to true. So I'm going to copy this, paste it here. This will be for my second symbol. So now that I have these conditions, I could finally place the order, passing in TWS as our connection, security 1, and then my order 1. Do the same thing for the second security. And then finally, I want to TWS disconnect TWS. All right, so that was for closing out positions. Now, if I want to send our long positions, we'll pass in temp, stock 1, and stock 2. I'm going to copy these lines. And then this will be if we're along the spread. All right, so I'll copy security 1 and security 2, paste it here. Next, security 1 shares will be as character, as numeric, last, temp, shares 1. So that, if you remember, I think we saved it under BB. Set this equal to tail. So I'm going to pass this, and then it'll get the number of shares from this table here. So basically 3 shares for asset 1, and then whatever this number is of shares for asset 2 is what we're going to buy or sell. So I'm going to copy this. This will be for shares 2, or for our second symbol. So act 1 for our first symbol will be a buy, since we're buying the spread. Act 2 will be a sell, or sell the second symbol of the spread. And then I'll copy order IDs. Interactive brokers will assign you these order IDs automatically when you run this function. And then my orders, I'll just copy this. So we were passing order ID. Order type will be market. Outside the regular trading hours, false. Action 1 will be to buy. The quantity of shares was calculated here. And then do I want to transmit it or send it to the market? I'll set that equal to true. So my order 2 is fine. Place the orders here. And finally, just disconnect from interactive brokers. All right, our send short will be temp, stock 1 and stock 2. Here I'll need to pass in these to connect to interactive brokers. All right, so here if I want to short the spread, I'm just going to copy all these lines, paste them here. All right, so for TWS stock, there should be paste stock 1. And this should be stock 2. Since that's what we're passing through. Security 1 and security 2 shares are grabbed from our data frame, so that's fine. Here, since we're short the spread, we need to sell the first security and buy the second. Request order IDs. And then my order, we'll pass in order IDs. We'll send in market orders. Outside regular trading hours, false. Action will be sell the first asset. Security 1 shares was calculated here. And then sent to the market, true. Place orders and then disconnect. All right, so that was it for the orders for interactive brokers. Next, I want to build a function that will determine the next trading day or the next trading day time. So we'll write function, no parameters. We'll pass in the system time. Right here, I'm just going to test whether or not the trading day is today. So say if I were to run this script in the morning time, then the trading day will be today. But say if it's past regular market hours and I want to schedule the script for tomorrow morning, it'll test this and determine what day it's going to start this script. So if time now is greater than, I'm going to paste 0, my system date, 13 hours, so 1 p.m. I'm in California, so it's Pacific Standard Time, so you'll need to adjust these to your time zone. So for me, the market closes at 1 p.m. So if it's after 1 p.m. and the time right now is less than midnight local time, so we'll do a second before midnight. Then the trading day will be format system date +1. So the next trading day will be tomorrow. %Y, %M, and %D. Otherwise, day today will be format system date, and then just copy this. So my current system time is 6:40 p.m. So if we print day today, our next trading day will be 7/10, July 10th. So it'll be tomorrow. We're gonna set this computer to sleep until the market opens. So here I'm going to pass in a vector called TMZ with times I want to run this script. So since we're using a time frame of 30 minutes, our first iteration will run at 7 a.m. Pacific Standard Time, and then 7:30, and then 8 until the market closes. So all those times will be held in a time vector called TMZ. So I'll pass in TMZ, the first iteration, minus system time, and then here we're going to calculate whether it's hours, minutes, or seconds by setting the attribute of the time difference. So this will give us the time attribute that we need to wait. We'll set this as numeric. Then if HMS is equal to hours, I'm going to print paste 0 will now sleep for the time, hours. We're going to add a new line and then print paste 0 starting at TMZ for times XX, and then a new line And then we're going to set the computer to sleep by running sys sleep our time difference multiplied by 60 to give us minutes, multiplied by 60 to give us hours. Alright, so I'm going to copy this, paste it here. So if the time difference is in minutes, I'm going to set this to minutes, take away a 60 to give us our time difference in minutes. And then finally, if the time difference is in seconds, we'll change this to seconds, this to seconds, then take away the 60, which will give us seconds. So this function will return the Bollinger Band chart for the spread, and it will save it as a PDF in our desktop. So we'll pass in temp, which is this data frame. Pass that in along with our spread, stock 1 and stock 2. Here we'll start a new line, and then index of temp, we'll change that to index temp minus hours 3 plus minutes 30, because it's in New York time, and then we have to adjust Alpha Vantage bars. I'm going to print temp and then index of the spread will be the same thing, so we'll copy this. We'll pass in our spreads as CT, and then column names of CT. I'm going to do G sub, paste stock 1, hyphen, stock 2, quotations there. So we'll do paste 0, stock 1, dot close, names of CT, which is our spread. And we need to change that because to add Bollinger Bands, our column names have to have a dot close in there. So we'll do chart series, our spread, paste 0, system date, and we'll do the last 7 days worth of data, colon colon, name, we'll do paste 0, stock 1, hyphen, stock 2, and then quotations there. So we'll chart that series. Next, I'll do PDF. I'll set my location of where I want this saved. So I'll do desktop, and then the file name, and then I'll just copy this, comma, and then PDF as our extension. Here I'll just set the size of that PDF, which will be 6. Height will be 4. Paper, I'll set this equal to special. Next, I'll print add Bbands, and then finally just def off to close off the chart. Alright guys, so we're all finished. We can go ahead and clean our global environment off. I'm going to save this. Alright, so now that that's saved, we'll need to open up a new script. Alright guys, so I realized that the Vantage API was not returning real-time data. So I was looking for a way to get real-time data that we could use for this example. And I stumbled upon TD Ameritrade's APIs. So if you go to the developer.tdameritrade.com, you should get a page that looks like this. You are going to go ahead and register. Alright, so once you register, you'll get an email. So I'm going to copy that email link that I got. Alright, so if you go to the APIs, you get a list of all the APIs available, but the one we're interested in is the quotes, the get quote. So this is the API we're going to be using. But first you need to go to My Apps. Want to go to add a new app. For app name, we'll just put test. For the URL here, I'm just going to type in http://127.0.0.1. And what is the purpose of this application? I'm just going to put testing. I'm going to create an app. So here it says my app was created. You'll click on your app name, and then here, this is your API key. So now that you have your API key, I'm going to go back to my functions. Alright, so we're going to write a function to get quotes from TD Ameritrade's API. So I'm going to write function, the ticker, and the timestamp. I'm going to save my API key to keep it private under an environment, but you can go ahead and just hard code your API key by closing these and just inserting your API key here. But like I said, I'll just keep it private for this example, and then we're passing in ticker, and then we're going to save the data in temp by using read JSON. So we are going to require JSON light. So here we're going to pass in the URL, then simplify vector, we'll set that equal to true. I'm going to save temp as a data frame. The next thing I'm going to do is format the column names. And I'm going to replace instances of column names that have ticker followed by a dot. I'm going to replace that with an empty space by using the names in temp, or the column names in temp. Alright, so for the quote, I just want to extract the closing price, and then I'm going to convert it to an XDS by running round as numeric temp the bid price. I'm going to add that to as numeric temp ask price. I'm going to divide that by 2 to get the midpoint price of the bid and the ask. I'm going to round that to 2 decimal places. And then I'm going to order by the timestamp we are passing through. If you want to get the quote using their timestamp, I'll post the example of that here. So it's essentially the same thing, the bid plus the ask divided by 2. But in this instance, we're going to convert their column that's called quote time and long, and that's in milliseconds. So I'm going to divide the milliseconds by 1000 to get the seconds after the origin, which is 1970-0101, and that should give you the correct timestamp for this quote. But the reason why I'm passing the timestamp will make sense in the other file that we will go over in just a bit. Alright, so the column names of close will be paste 0, paste the ticker name with dot close, and then finally just return the close. Alright, so that's our function to get real-time quotes from TD Ameritrade's API. Alright, so now we're going to have to tweak our new data function. Alright, so we're going to change a couple of things here. I'm going to block this line out. I'm going to copy up to here before the arrow. So essentially what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to request new data before the market opens, and that's going to fill the data gap that I have between my database and the current date. So that's going to be filled by Vantage. And then in order to get real-time quotes, I'm going to use TD Ameritrade's API, and what I'm going to be doing is I'm just going to rbind or row bind the latest quote, and I'm going to paste it into this new data so that we have a continuous data quote for the tickers we are requiring. So here I'll put if, I'm going to paste this in. So if that is equal to 0, our data would just be the last couple of rows for that data. And then I'm going to assign that to our global environment. And then finally just return the data. Else, I'm going to copy this here, paste it there. And the reason I set this if statement in there is because you try running this before the market opens on Monday, Vantage will return no data because the market hasn't opened yet. So in that instance, we're just going to copy the last couple of rows of data so that we have something to row bind it to our new quotes. Otherwise, just return the data for this week. Another thing I noticed was that Vantage actually returned pre-market and after hours quotes. So here I'm just going to subset the times for the regular market, which is 9:30 to 16. So we'll leave that here. Alright, so if you don't want to use Vantage nor TD Ameritrade, it's always a good idea to get the data from your broker. So the other alternative, which is not free, you can always pay a subscription fee to get data from your broker. And instead of our new data function, we will replace it with this one, which will connect to interactive brokers. We're going to pass in the security or the symbol, and then the function we will use is called require historical data. We'll pass in the security, what to show, we want to show the trades, and then the bar size, we'll set that equal to the minutes that we pass in. Duration, the last 10 days of bars. Use regular trading hours is set to 1 for true, and then you will set your time zone here. Disconnect from the interactive brokers API. We just want to retrieve the closing price. Change the column names, and if we only want this week's data, we'll just replace this with find Monday. which is a function we have here. We'll assign this to our global environment. But again, this method is not free, but in my opinion, it's the best option. All right, so I'll save this here. All right, so now we can go to our blank document. And here I'm going to set the time frame to 30 for 30 minutes. I'm going to call in all my functions by running source, and then whatever you named your file with all the functions. So once you run these two lines, you'll see all the functions that we have. All right, so we're going to determine the next trading day by running day today. So we take a look at the system time currently. I'm in Pacific time, so it's past the regular trading hours. So the next trading day should be tomorrow. We confirm that the next trading day is July 14th. Next, I'll make a sequence of timestamps. So the start of the market, for me, it's 6:30 a.m., but that'll be the very open, and I want the closing bars. So I'll actually start this at 7 a.m. or 10 a.m. Eastern time. So I'll write as POSIX CT. I'm going to paste as date, day today. The format is %Y, %M, %D. Add some quotations. So like I said, I'll start this at 7 a.m. because that will be the very first closing bar since we're running this every 30 minutes. I'm going to copy this, paste it here. And then the market closes at 1 or 4 p.m. Eastern. In order to make the time sequence, we'll use sequence, start, end, buy. I'll use paste 0, TF, space, min for minutes. So this will be our start, end, our times. So now we have a sequence of times that this will be running. So our first time that this algorithm will run, it will start at this time, go to sleep, wait 30 minutes, and then rerun our algorithm at 7:30 until the market closes. So since the market will be closed for the very last bar, I'm going to make an adjustment to that very last timestamp. So I'll replace that last timestamp by running TMZ, length of TMZ. I'm going to copy one of these. And I'll set this equal to 12:59:20. So 40 seconds before the market closes. I'll run that. Let's take a look at our sequence. And now it's formatted the way I want. I'm also going to write this line to give us only the times greater than our system time. And I'm putting this in there in case something breaks. You'll just have to rerun these lines and it'll give you the very next starting time. Alright, so for our pairs trading, we're going to place the tickers here that we're going to use. So I'm going to write CMC and SUM for the pairs. Next, I'm going to request the data from Vantage by running new data, best 1 for the first ticker, minutes equals our time in force. Copy that, paste it here, and then just replace the 1 with the 2. So I'll go ahead and run these to get our new data. Okay, so let's go back to our functions. And for new data, we're going to set this to the number of rows. So if the number of rows is 0, I'm going to rerun that function. Alright, so I'm going to save this file, and then I'll go back to my script. So we'll give this another shot. Alright, so now we have data for CMC and some. So we take a look at the tail of CMC. Our data actually starts on the Friday. So this is what I mean that we don't get real-time data from Vantage. So I'm going to have to rerun these two lines before the market opens tomorrow to get Monday's price history. So we'll go ahead and continue. Alright, so this is just to set the computer to sleep until the market opens by running the first iteration of our time sequence. So it's going to compute the difference between the system time and this very first time sequence, and whatever that time difference is, it'll set the computer to sleep. So if we run this, now the computer's asleep until 7 a.m. tomorrow, which is a difference of 16.65 hours. Alright, so that works. Now this is for the actual algorithm. I'm going to set this to as list, 2 to the length of our time sequence. The function is XX. I have to call in my functions every time. So I'm just going to copy this. Next, I'm going to adjust the times by subtracting 30 minutes from our current time sequence that we're passing in. So say it's tomorrow, and then we're going to pass in XX equals 2. So the times is 7:30. But our timestamp will be the beginning of that bar, which is 30 minutes before. And we need that because I'm going to assign the first ticker by row binding, get from global our first ticker. Then I'll do get quote from TD Ameritrade's API. Ticker will be best 1, and then the timestamp will be the timestamp, the adjusted timestamp that we set here. Now that we row binded these, I'm gonna send it to the environment, to the global environment. Then I'll copy this and change the 1 to a 2 for the second ticker. So technically at the end of each bar, I'm going to run these. It'll get the data that we currently have for each ticker, and it's going to row bind it with the latest quote that we get from TD Ameritrade. Next, we're going to calculate our beta for our pairs trade by running pairs strat. Symbol 1 is the very first ticker. Symbol 2 is best 2. Time frame is just our time frame. Next, I'll get my spread by running do call, merge, e apply, e, and merge. So I'm getting my spread from the E environment that we stored when we calculated pair strat. Next, I'll get the result by running Bband Strat. So for the parameters, I'm just going to copy these. And then our starting equity will be 2,500. And then we'll pass in our spread by assigning spreads to spreads. All right, so this part is all calculations. So here we'll make a trading decision. So here I'm just going to extract the last couple of rows from our results. And then our previous tick, or our previous signal, is as numeric core data signal number of rows in signal -1 in the sig column. This will be our current tick, or our current signal. And then here we'll do buy, sell, close. So current tick is just current tick. Previous tick is our previous tick. Temp equals temp. Stock 1 is best 1. Stock 2 is best 2. And then finally, we'll just set a display by passing in temp, our spread, and then stock 1 and stock 2. And then finally, just set the computer to sleep until the very next bar. Alright, so here we'll test it out by setting XX equals to 2, calling in our functions, adjusting time stamp. So these two lines will get the latest quote, and then row bind it to each ticker. So if we take a look at the tail of CMC, it ends at 7:10, but like I said, I'll have to rerun this tomorrow morning to get Monday's price data. So if we run these two lines, now we take a look at tail CMC. Now we have an updated price series. Next, I'll make the calculations, extract the spread, get the results from our Bband strategy. Next, just extract the last couple of rows, get the previous signal. So our previous signal was 0, our current signal is 0. So then if they're the same, no trading decision will be made. It's only when they differ. So that will run, and then we'll have nothing to buy or sell. And then this is our current timestamp. And then it'll run display. And then if you go to your desktop, let me run dev off. It's because I was running this morning. That's why it looks cluttered. So if you take a look at your desktop, there should be a PDF. If you open that PDF, you will find the spread with the current readings of the Bollinger Band. So here it actually crossed below the lower band. So we'll get a signal the very next bar if this price was continuous. But like I said, I'm still missing a day's worth of data that I'll get from Alpha Vantage tomorrow morning. So this signal doesn't really count. And then finally, it'll go to sleep until 7:30, which is the very next bar after this. So all seems to work. So I'll start this tomorrow morning, and then I'll give you an update. I was running this algorithm this morning on the paper trading account, and here are the decisions it made today. So at 7:30, it looks like it sold the spread, and then it closed the positions like an hour and a half later, and then it bought the spread at 11 a.m. and this is our current standing. It's basically flat, but if you were to take a look at the S&P 500, it's a very chaotic market today. Whenever you run this, you're gonna have to open up interactive brokers and leave this open. So I leave this in the background. So say you're trying to run this, all I have to do is run these lines. I'm gonna run all this chunk of code, including the sleep. I'll hit run, and in my case, it'll start the algorithm at 7 a.m. on July 14th. So that's all you have to do. But like I said, I'll have to rerun this tomorrow morning to get that new data from Alpha Vantage. Well, this concludes this tutorial. I'll update the results later this week, and I'll see you guys in the next video.